In the dim basement mailroom of Thomson Enterprises, Emma Davis had been invisible for over 2 years. Until the morning a gold-inked invitation arrived, mocking laughter echoed from her coworkers, and the rumor of layoffs whispered that this might be her last chance to be seen. If this already pulls you in, share and subscribe. Because this story is just beginning. A gray Tuesday morning in the basement of Thomson Enterprises, the fluorescent lights hummed low, and the air carried the faint smell of damp concrete and old paper. Rain tapped softly against the high, narrow windows, as if the city itself were whispering secrets no one downstairs needed to hear. Emma Davis was 28, a quiet woman with fair skin and shoulder-length straight brown hair that she kept tucked behind her ears. She moved through the mailroom with the steady rhythm of someone who had learned to disappear. Average height, slender from years of carrying trays and pushing carts, she wore the Navy Company polo and black khakis that made her blend into the shelves. Her eyes were soft brown, often looking down at envelopes rather than meeting anyone's gaze. For more than 2 years, she had sorted mail in this windowless place, invisible to the floors above. The work was steady, the paycheck just enough to send to her younger brother in college and keep the lights on in her small apartment. She did not complain. Complaining would have required someone to listen. That morning, the routine broke. Among the usual memos and interoffice envelopes lay one that did not belong. Thick cream paper, her name written in careful gold ink, a wax seal on the back like something from another time. Emma held it for a long moment, the weight of it strange in her hands. She turned it over, read the invitation to the CEO's annual holiday gala at his estate in Connecticut. Black tie optional. Her name, no mistake. Megan appeared first. 31, medium skin tone, wavy blonde hair tied back in a practical knot, curvy build that moved with quick confidence. She wore the same navy polo and khakis, but carried herself as though the basement were her domain. Her laugh came sharp and loud. They sent one to the mailroom? Must be to make up the numbers. Nobody from down here actually goes. She leaned over Emma's shoulder, eyes bright with amusement. Then Jessica from HR walked by. 35, fair skin, sleek black bob, medium height and fit, dressed in a white silk blouse, black pencil skirt, and light gray blazer that spoke of offices with windows. Her voice carried the polite edge of someone who had learned to smile while cutting. Emma, honey, what would you even wear to something like that? Don't set yourself up to feel out of place among the suits and gowns. She did not wait for an answer, heels clicking away down the hall. David from finance passed next, carrying a stack of reports. 39, light olive skin, short dark brown hair neatly combed, clean-shaven, stocky build in a light blue dress shirt, striped tie, gray trousers, and brown loafers. He paused, glanced at the envelope, and gave a short chuckle. Next year, they'll invite the janitors, too. Anyway, you might not be here much longer. Word is they're cutting the mailroom. Layoff's coming. He shrugged and kept walking. Emma felt heat rise in her cheeks. The laughter lingered in the air like smoke. She slid the invitation into her bag, fingers trembling slightly. The rumor of layoffs had been circling for weeks, quiet at first, then louder. Her brother's tuition was due soon. The apartment rent never waited. She was the only one left to carry it all since her father passed. And yet the gold ink on that paper felt like a small, stubborn light in the dimness. She remembered Juilliard, the scholarship letter that had arrived when she was 18, the acceptance that made her father cry with pride. He had saved for years to buy the old upright piano that stood in their living room, a secondhand piece he refinished himself. When the cancer came, stage 4, the bills mounted faster than she could count. She left school in her second year, came home to sit by his bed. In the quiet nights, he would hold her hand, voice thin, but steady. You were born to play piano, Emma. Don't ever give it up. It's your wings. He died 6 months later. She sold the piano to pay the last hospital bill. The music stopped. The job in the mailroom began. Now this invitation. A door cracked open after years of being shut. The mockery stung, but beneath it something stirred. Fear, yes, but also a deep, quiet resolve. If layoffs were coming, if the basement was closing, then this gala might be the last chance to be seen. Not as the girl who pushed the cart, but as someone who once had wings. She straightened the stack of mail on her cart. The rain outside tapped a little softer now, as though waiting. Emma took a slow breath. She would go. She would wear the simple black dress she had not yet bought, stand in the light of that grand house, and let whatever happened come. For her father, for her brother, for the part of herself she had buried but never quite killed. In that moment, under the hum of the lights, she made a promise to the quiet room. She would not disappear again. The rain had stopped by evening, leaving the city streets slick and quiet under the streetlights. Emma's small apartment on the 4th floor smelled of old wood and faint coffee, the single window fogged from the warmth inside. She came home with the invitation still folded in her bag, the gold ink catching the dim lamplight like a promise she wasn't sure she deserved. All day the laughter had followed her, through the hallways, past the elevators, down the stairs. Megan's sharp chuckle, Jessica's polite cut, David's casual shrug about layoffs. Each word landed like a small stone in still water, rippling wider. She felt the weight of them now, sitting on the edge of her narrow bed, staring at the envelope. The company was shrinking. Departments were being trimmed. The mailroom, always the first to feel the blade. Her brother's next semester tuition sat on the kitchen table like a bill she could not ignore. She had no savings left after the last hospital debts. Yet the invitation remained, stubborn and real. She walked to the closet and pulled out the black dress she had bought that afternoon from the outlet on 34th Street. Simple, long-sleeved, satin that caught the light softly. Not expensive, not flashy. Just enough to stand in a room without apologizing for herself. She held it against her body in front of the small mirror. The fabric was cool against her skin. For a moment she saw not the woman who sorted mail, but the girl who once played for her father. The memory came slow, unbidden. Her father had been a quiet man, broad-shouldered from years on construction sites, graying early, hands calloused and steady. He never spoke much, but he listened. When she was 10, he brought home the old upright piano, refinished it himself in the garage over weekends. He had saved for 2 years, skipping lunches, working extra shifts. "This is yours, Emma," he said, voice rough but gentle. "Play it every day. Let it carry you." Later, when the cancer took his strength, he lay in the hospital bed, tubes and monitors beeping softly. She sat beside him, holding his hand. One night, when the room was dark except for the hallway light, he whispered, "You were born to play piano, child. Don't ever give it up. It's your wings." His eyes, tired and clear, held hers until she nodded. He died 3 weeks later. She sold the piano the next month to pay the final bills. The silence after that was deeper than any she had known. Now in the apartment, she set the dress on the chair and moved to the corner where the small electronic keyboard stood, covered with a thin layer of dust. She wiped it clean with her sleeve. The keys felt cool under her fingers. She sat on the stool, back straight the way her father had taught her. She began Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto No. 2. The opening chords soft, hesitant. The notes filled the room slowly. Each phrase brought back the living room of her childhood. The smell of sawdust from her father's tools, the creak of the old bench, his quiet presence behind her. She played until the second movement, where the melody turns inward, searching. Tears came then, warm and silent. Not grief exactly, but something close to regret. She had stopped playing to survive. Survival had become hiding. The music had waited, patient, like an old friend left in the rain. She lifted her hands. The last chord lingered in the air. Outside, a car passed, tires hissing on wet pavement. She looked at the invitation again, then at the dress. The fear was still there. The risk of humiliation, the chance of losing everything if the layoffs came. But beneath it, something steadier had taken root, a small, stubborn belief that she could still fly, even if the wings were worn. She would go to the gala. She would stand in that room, not to prove anything to them, to prove it to herself, and perhaps in some quiet way, to the man who had believed in her first. She folded the dress carefully and placed it on the bed. Then she sat again, fingers resting on the keys. She played the opening bars once more, slower this time. The notes were a promise. The night air was cool and crisp as Emma drove north from the city. The old sedan rattled softly on the highway. headlights cutting through the dark toward the quiet hills of Connecticut. Stars appeared one by one above the trees, small and steady. She arrived at the estate just after dusk. The long driveway was lined with glowing lanterns, and expensive cars waited in neat rows. Sleek black sedans, silver coupes, their chrome catching the light like quiet promises. Her car looked small and tired beside them. She parked at the end, smoothed her black dress, and stepped out. The satin felt heavier now, the low heels unsteady on the gravel. She carried only the small clutch, nothing else. The invitation was folded inside, a thin shield against the night. Inside the grand foyer, crystal chandeliers spilled warm light across marble floors. The air smelled of polished wood, fresh flowers, and faint cigar smoke from somewhere distant. String music drifted from the main room, violin and cello, slow and elegant. People moved in clusters, men in tailored tuxedos, women in gowns that shimmered like water. Emma stood near the entrance for a long moment, breathing shallowly. She felt the difference immediately, not just in clothes or cars. In the way eyes slid past her, polite but uninterested, as though she were background. Then Jessica appeared, wineglass in hand. She wore a deep emerald dress that hugged her frame, hair swept up, earrings catching the light. Her smile was the same one from the office, kind on the surface, sharp beneath. "Emma, you actually came. That's brave." The word hung between them, not quite a compliment. David joined her a moment later, in black tie, stocky shoulders filling the jacket. He gave a short laugh. "Thought you'd chicken out. You look like you're here to serve the champagne." Megan trailed behind, in a red gown that clashed a little with her usual confidence. She tilted her head. "Seriously, Emma, you blend right in with the waitstaff." Their laughter was soft, careful not to carry too far. Emma felt it in her chest like a slow bruise. She managed a small nod, lips pressed tight. A silver-haired woman in silver silk passed by, glanced at Emma's dress, and held out an empty flute. "Darling, could you fetch me another champagne? The tray's over there." Emma opened her mouth, closed it. The woman waited, expectant. Heat rose in Emma's face. She turned away, walked quickly toward the far wall, heart pounding. The room seemed louder now. Clinking glasses, murmured conversations, the quartet's melody weaving through it all. She found a shadowed corner near a tall window, pressed her back to the cool glass. Outside, the lawn stretched dark and endless. She could still leave. The car was close. No one would notice. The thought came sharp and tempting. But she stayed. The humiliation burned, yet something held her there. The same stubborn thread that had kept her playing Rachmaninoff the night before. She thought of her father's voice in the hospital room, thin but certain. She thought of her brother's textbooks waiting on the kitchen table. She thought of the layoffs that might come any day. If she left now, she would remain invisible forever. If she stayed, even in the corner, even with the sting still fresh, she might be seen. Not by them, by someone, by herself. She straightened slowly. The music swelled, a slow waltz now. She watched the room from her place in the shadows, the way light moved across faces, the way hands touched glasses, the way laughter rose and fell. Her breathing steadied. The ache in her chest did not vanish, but it quieted. She was here. That was enough for tonight. She would wait. She would watch. And if the chance came, she would step forward. The music room lay just beyond the main hall, its double doors open to the night. A single chandelier hung low, casting golden pools across the polished floor. The Steinway Grand stood in the center, black and silent, its lid raised like a quiet invitation. The air inside was cooler, scented with old wood and faint beeswax. Robert Thompson stepped onto the small, raised platform at the far end. He was 56, tall and solid, his charcoal gray suit tailored to fit without show. Short gray hair neatly trimmed, clean-shaven, his face carried the lines of a man who had known both success and quiet grief. His eyes were steady, the kind that had seen many rooms like this one and still looked for something true. He held the microphone gently, voice low and warm, carrying the faint weariness of someone who had spoken at too many gatherings yet still believed in them. "Good evening, everyone," he began. The room hushed gradually. conversations trailing off like fading echoes. Thank you for coming tonight. This is my favorite evening of the year. Seeing you all away from desks and deadlines, just people together. A polite ripple of applause followed. He paused, glancing toward the piano. We have this beautiful Steinway here. It sits mostly untouched. Every year I hope someone will offer to play, fill the house with music again. But no one ever does. His smile was small, almost private. So tonight I'll ask directly, does anyone here play the piano? Silence settled, thick and complete. Glasses paused midway to lips. Eyes darted, then looked away. No one moved. The chandelier's light swayed very slightly, catching on crystal and silk. Emma stood near the back, half hidden by a tall column. Her heart beat hard against her ribs, a steady drum she could feel in her throat. The laughter from earlier still lingered in her mind. Sharp, small cuts. She could stay hidden. She could wait for the moment to pass, as she had waited for so many moments before. Then she heard her father's voice, soft as the hospital room light. Don't be afraid to stand up when the chance comes, Emma. It's your wings. The words rose clear, as though spoken just behind her. She felt the old ache in her chest, the one that came when she thought of the piano she had sold, the lessons she had left unfinished, the years she had chosen safety over flight. The layoffs waited somewhere in the future, a shadow growing closer. Her brother's future waited too. And here, in this room full of people who had never truly seen her, was a door cracked open. Not wide, just enough. Her hand rose slowly. It trembled at first, then steadied. She lifted it above her shoulder, palm open, fingers straight. The motion felt enormous, as though she were lifting more than her arm. Heads turned, a few quiet gasps, a soft chuckle from somewhere near the front. Familiar, cutting. She kept her eyes on the piano, not on the faces. Robert's gaze found hers across the room. For a moment, the world narrowed to that look. Kind, surprised, and deeply grateful. His smile warmed, lines deepening around his eyes. Wonderful, he said, voice carrying gently through the microphone. Please come up here. Emma felt the floor shift beneath her. Her legs moved before her mind caught up. One step, then another. The crowd parted slightly, whispers following like a wake. She passed faces she knew. Jessica's raised brow, David's half smile, Megan's folded arms. None of it mattered now. The music room drew closer, the piano larger with every step. Her breathing was shallow, but even. She reached the platform. Robert extended a hand to help her up the 2 low steps. His grip was firm, steady, the hand of a man who had held many burdens and still reached out. She stood beside the bench. The keys gleamed under the light, black and white in perfect rows. The room waited. In that silence, she felt something loosen inside her, a knot tied years ago, beginning to unravel. She was no longer only the girl in the basement. She was the girl who had once played for her father. And tonight, she would play again. She nodded once, small and certain. The music room grew still as Emma settled onto the bench. The Steinway's keys gleamed under the chandelier's soft glow, black and white waiting in perfect silence. The scent of polished ebony rose faintly, mingling with the distant murmur of the party beyond the doors. Her hands hovered above the keyboard. They trembled more than she expected. Sharp, insistent tremors from years of gripping the mail cart, pushing through narrow aisles hour after hour until the tendons in her wrists had thickened and protested. Tonight the pain flared hotter, a warning she might fail right here, in front of everyone who had laughed at her. She felt the old fear rise. What if the note slipped? What if the music broke and proved she belonged only in the basement? Her breath came short, shallow. The room watched. Hundreds of eyes, some curious, some skeptical. Jessica stood near the front, arms crossed. David leaned against a pillar, mouth curved in faint amusement. Megan whispered something to a woman beside her. The silence pressed in. Emma closed her eyes. In the darkness behind her lids, she heard Liu Wei's voice, not from memory, but from the video she had watched so many times on quiet nights. A man who had lost both arms at 10, who had learned to play with his feet, who had stood on a stage and won a nation's heart. "There are only two paths," he had said simply. "Die fast or live brilliantly." The words settled over her like a steady hand on her shoulder. She opened her eyes. The keys were still there. Her father's whisper followed close behind. "It's your wings, child." She drew a slow breath deep into her chest. The pain in her wrists did not vanish, but it no longer owned her. She placed her fingers on the keys. The first chord of Rachmaninoff Piano Concerto. Number 2 sounded soft, almost hesitant. Then the melody began, gentle at first, like a question asked in the dark. Her hands moved, slow and deliberate, finding their way home. The tremors eased as muscle memory took over. The music grew, layer by layer. The left hand laid down deep, resonant foundations. The right hand danced through the melody, delicate and sure. Each phrase carried something she had carried alone for 2 years. The weight of hospital rooms, the silence after her father's last breath, the endless days sorting envelopes while dreams gathered dust. The notes released them, one by one. She swayed slightly, eyes half closed, lost in the sound. The room disappeared. There was only the piano, the music, and the girl she had once been. The second movement arrived, longing, searching. Her fingers flew faster now, the runs clean despite the ache. The climax built, thunderous and full, every chord a release. She poured everything into it, the mockery, the fear of layoffs, the guilt of having sold the old upright, the love she had buried to survive. The final chord rang out, held, then faded into stillness. The last note lingered in the air, trembling, then gone. Silence, complete and profound. No clink of glasses, no whisper. Emma opened her eyes. Her hands rested on the keys, still shaking faintly. She turned slowly. Faces stared back, wide-eyed, mouths parted. Jessica's arms had fallen to her sides. David's half-smile was gone, replaced by something stunned and quiet. Megan stood frozen, phone forgotten in her hand. Then Robert began to clap. Not politely, hard, deliberate, tears shining in his eyes. The sound broke the spell. Applause erupted. Warm, rising, some cheering, some standing. It washed over her like rain after drought. Emma rose from the bench. Her legs felt unsteady, but her chest was full. The pain in her wrists throbbed, yet it felt distant now. A reminder rather than a chain. She had not failed. She had played. From the girl they mocked to the woman who filled the room with music. The shift was quiet, deep, irreversible. She looked out at the faces. Some she knew, some she did not, and felt for the first time in years, truly seen. She stepped down from the platform. The clapping continued, steady as a heartbeat. In that moment she knew, the wings had not been lost. They had only waited. The study was small compared to the rest of the house, lit by the soft glow of a single desk lamp and the dying embers in the fireplace. The walls were lined with books and framed photographs, the air warm with the scent of aged paper and faint cedar smoke. A quiet settled here, different from the grand rooms beyond the door. Robert led Emma inside and closed the door gently. He moved to the leather chair by the fire, gesturing for her to sit opposite. His face in the low light showed the lines more clearly now, deep ones around the eyes, the kind earned from years of carrying both a company and a private sorrow. He poured 2 glasses of water from a pitcher, handed one to her, then sat. His hands, large and steady, rested on the armrests. For a long moment, he looked into the flames. "My daughter's name is Amelia," he said at last, voice low. "She's 17. She used to play this piano, hours every day. She had real talent. Teachers said she could have gone anywhere." He paused, breath slow. 3 years ago, a drunk driver ran a red light. She survived, thank God, but her spine was damaged. She's been in a wheelchair since. His gaze remained on the fire. The hardest part wasn't the injury. It was watching her give up music. "We have a beautiful piano at home. She won't go near it, won't even speak of it. It's as though that part of her died in the accident." He turned to Emma then, eyes searching. "When you played tonight, I heard something alive again. Passion. Not for show, just necessary. Would you consider meeting her? Maybe teaching her? I'd pay you well. I just think she needs someone who understands what music really means. Emma held the glass in both hands, feeling its coolness. She thought of her own father's hospital room, the monitors beeping softly, the way he had whispered about wings. I studied at Juilliard, she said quietly. 2nd year, full scholarship. I was going to be a concert pianist. Her voice stayed even, though her throat tightened. Then my father got cancer. Stage 4. The bills came faster than I could breathe. I left school to come home to help pay them. He died 6 months later. She looked at Robert. I sold the piano we had. I took this job in your mailroom. I stopped playing for a long time. It hurt too much. Robert nodded slowly. A long silence followed, broken only by the soft crackle of the fire. Then he spoke. You don't belong in the mailroom, Emma. I'll look at your file tomorrow. We'll find a place that fits who you are. Not charity. Recognition. He leaned forward slightly. And if you'll meet Amelia, I'd be grateful. The next afternoon, the house felt different in daylight. Sunlight streaming through tall windows, gardens quiet beyond the glass. Amelia waited in the sunroom, a bright space filled with plants and soft cushions. She was 17, pale skin, long dark brown hair pulled back loosely, slim frame in an oversized light gray cashmere sweater and black leggings, seated in her wheelchair. Her eyes were guarded, a deep hazel that held both hurt and distance. Emma sat across from her. She spoke gently. Your father told me about the accident. I'm sorry. Amelia looked away. Emma continued. I'm not here to fix anything. I just want to share something. She took out her phone, opened a video she had saved years ago. Liu Wei appeared on the screen, a man without arms playing piano with his feet, toes moving across the keys with grace and precision. The music was beautiful, complex, full of life. Amelia watched, eyes widening slowly. When the video ended, she was silent, tears shining. I dreamed of Carnegie Hall once, she whispered. After the accident, I felt like everything was gone. I even thought about ending it. Her voice cracked. I didn't tell anyone. Emma reached across the space between them and took her hand. I thought about it too, after my father died. The music felt pointless without him, but it didn't leave me. I left it. She squeezed gently. Music saved me when I let it back in. It can still be here for you. Different, maybe, but real. Amelia's shoulders shook once, then stilled. She looked at Emma, eyes clearer now. Will you play something for me? In the living room? I'll listen from here. Emma went to the piano in the next room. She chose a simple piece. Debussy's Clair de Lune, soft and full of longing. As the notes drifted through the open doorway, she heard the faint creak of wheels. Amelia had moved closer, stopping at the threshold. When the last chord faded, silence returned, warm this time. Amelia spoke first. I read about hand pedals online. Do you think? Emma turned, smiling softly. We'll figure it out together, one note at a time. In the quiet that followed, something fragile and precious began to mend, not all at once, but steadily, like light returning after a long night. 6 months had passed, and the seasons had turned gentle in New York. Early spring light filtered through the windows of the new office on the 8th floor, soft and forgiving, carrying the faint scent of blooming trees from the street below. The mailroom felt like a distant memory now, its fluorescent hum replaced by the quiet rhythm of purpose. Emma's new title, Director of Employee Development, still sounded strange when she said it aloud. The office was modest, a corner room with a view of the river, a small desk and a single chair for visitors. She wore a simple navy blazer over a white blouse, the kind of clothes that felt earned rather than borrowed. Each day she met with people who had been overlooked, quiet talents buried in routine. Ethan came first. 30, fair skin, short, messy, dark blonde hair, light stubble, lean build, always in a gray hoodie under his jacket. He had spent years in the mailroom fixing printers on the side, dreaming of code. Emma listened to his story, reviewed his skills, and moved him to IT. He walked out lighter, eyes brighter. Others followed. A custodian who spoke 5 languages, now in international relations. A security guard with an accounting degree, now in finance. The layoffs that once loomed never came. Instead, people stayed, grew. Emma watched it happen, day by day, and felt the old guilt loosen. Guilt for having hidden so long, for thinking survival meant staying small. At the Thompson house, the sunroom had become a music room again. Amelia sat at the grand piano, her wheelchair positioned close enough to reach the keys without strain. Hand pedals had been fitted, simple, elegant adaptations that let her feet rest while her hands moved freely. She was 17 still, but something had shifted in her posture, in the way her fingers found the notes. The music she played now was her own. One afternoon, she asked Emma to sit beside her. "I wrote something," she said quietly. "For you." She played Second Chance, a piece that began slow and searching, then opened into something deeper, more mature. The melody carried the weight of her accident, the darkness she had walked through, the light she had found again. When the final chord faded, Amelia looked at Emma with clear eyes. "It's not the same as before, it's better, because I know what it means now." Emma felt tears rise, warm and unhurried. She reached over and touched the girl's hand. No words were needed. The music had said them all. Emma's new apartment was on the 6th floor of a quiet building near the river. She had bought a real piano, an upright dark walnut, secondhand but well-loved. It stood against the wall in the living room, its lid open like an open hand. Some evenings she played alone, the notes filling the space where silence had once lived. The city sounds drifted in through the window, distant horns, the low hum of traffic, but inside there was only the music. She thought of her father often in those moments, his voice, his rough hand on her shoulder. She thought of the hospital room, the sold piano, the years she had chosen quiet over flight. The regret had not vanished, but it had softened, become part of the melody rather than the end of it. She had found her wings again. Not the ones she lost, but new ones, shaped by everything she had carried. One afternoon, she organized a workshop in the company's training room. Discovering Hidden Talent. The room filled slowly, people from every floor, including those who had once laughed. Megan came, hesitant in her usual navy polo and khakis, eyes downcast. Jessica sat near the back, arms folded but listening. Emma stood at the front, simple navy blazer, voice steady. She told her story, not for praise, but for truth. The basement, the invitation, the mockery, the piano, the night she decided to stay. She spoke of her father's words, of Amelia's courage, of the people she had helped move forward. When she finished, the room was quiet. Megan stood up slowly. "I was wrong," she said, voice small. "I laughed because I was afraid. Afraid I'd never be seen either." Emma crossed the room and took her hand. No judgment, just a nod. Forgiveness was given quietly, like the turning of a page. Later that evening, Emma sat alone at her piano. The city lights flickered beyond the window. She played a simple piece, something her father used to hum. The notes rose and fell, gentle as breath. She smiled, small and real. Finally, she had been seen, not just by others, by herself. She closed the lid softly. The room held the last echo of the music. As the final notes fade, remember, life may dim our lights, but music, kindness, and second chances can always bring them back. To those battling illness, loneliness, or quiet pain, may God wrap you in peace, heal your body and heart, and remind you that you are never truly alone. If this story touched you, please share it with someone who needs hope. Leave a comment below with your own quiet miracle, and subscribe for more stories that lift the soul. God bless you and keep you close.